Hello guys, Mars Framing is here. Today I wanted to show you how you can create pretty cool islands really fast using Gaea and Unreal Engine. So let's jump into it. So here we are in Gaea 2.0, and one of the ways you can actually start making islands is with the island node like this, but even in Gaea 2.0 still I can't get them to look exactly how I want. They still look pretty generic, and I just wanted to kind of show you guys exactly how I usually make islands. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the website. As always, I'm just gonna link everything down below. So it's gonna be called Asgard, and it's actually cool height map generator. You can use any other height map generator. There's like a lot of them out there. And so once you're gonna open, I'm gonna show you a few things that we're gonna change. So first, you're gonna go to options and set the resolution. So I'm gonna set it to the Unreal's like default one. We're gonna set to the 1K resolution since we were using Gaea free version, and this looked pretty fine. It looked pretty good to work with Gaea. Then here, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the high map. I'm gonna open this, and you can choose a lot of stuff here. You can make low island, highland, volcanoes, you can make continents. So basically if you want to just create multiple islands, you can choose that and a bunch of other stuff. So in my case, I'm just going to choose the high island and going to click new map. Generate. So now it generated new island. So if you want to have it to look differently, you can always play with the seed numbers and get something like totally different. Then after that, what you're gonna do is make sure that rendering is set to best performance. Then in the style, we're gonna set it to the monochrome because we're using a high map. We are not getting any other detail out here. And for the layer, make sure that only high map is selected. And then we can do is just click export, PNG. So after that, we can go into the Gaea. And we can use something called file node. We can use the file node and we can import our high map. Currently it looks pretty dramatic, but we're gonna fix it in a second. So first thing we're gonna do is gonna go project, build settings, and we're gonna go to terrain. And here, select the parameters how you want your island to look. It's really individual taste. You can look for the real life references like in a Google map, some kind of islands that you know, and you can get like, understanding of the width. As always, I'm just gonna leave it as a default. Then before we move forward, first thing you want to do is save your project, because Gaea 2.0 is actually crashing a lot for me, and I have seen actually for a lot of people it's crashing currently a lot. So after you have saved your project, we can move forward. And so first thing we're gonna do is we can see that our island has these all sharp things, and it's just going to make more problems when we can add some other nodes. So how we can smooth it out is we can add the blur node. We can add a blur, and we're just going to decrease the value to something like 0.2, 0.1, something like this. 0.1 looks pretty good. Since I want to add some more, since I want to differentiate the top from the bottom, I want to actually that peak where the mountain's going to be, make it like more mountainy and rocky mountain, stuff like that. What we can do is we can add Perlin noise. We can add Perlin noise. We can combine these two things. So we're going to do a combiner 1 and multiply. So you can kind of look at the effect. So I'm going to take a look at the Perlin noise. So what usually I like to do for my islands is I change this to the ridged. I actually bring the scale down to make it like super noisy, because it's just a noise that we can add. So I bring this super like to the very bottom, and everything else I leave in the default. And now only you can play a game with the seed for each of your islands to just make them look different while keeping the same parameters as you have, which is the beautiful thing about actually Gaea. You can actually make a lot of templates and don't even touch the nodes. Just play around with the seeds and you completely get different landscape or different mountains and all that. So we're gonna go back, and since I don't want this noise to be all across the mountain but only in the peaks, what I can do is add height. So we're gonna add height here from here, and we're gonna use it as a mask, and I'm gonna add it at the very top. So we're gonna put it something like 99, 98, 99. And to make even out the gradient, to make it like so not harsh transition, we can use fall off. Something like this, 65. Looks good. So it's easier, smaller gradient. So here on the bottom where the black, there's going to be no effect from this purling, and the top here going to be the highest. So it's going to evenly gradient out that effect, which is pretty cool. So now we're going to go back to this node. And as I said, depending from the things you put in settings, your mountain can be super high, you can be very, very low right now. How you can actually control it afterwards is we're going to add two nodes here. High ramp and shaper. So basically the shaper just shapes that mountain evenly. So the lower the shaper, the more drastic change is going to be from the highest to lowest. And if you adjust the shaper, the more it kind of like suppresses the black and white more together. So it's not so drastically. And a high remap, it's just going to be, it's really just brings up the bottom, or it brings the peaks down. So for example, like if your mountain, you change actually very, very wide, and your mountain, currently your island looks like this, you can just bring up the remap and make it higher, and yeah, it hits the cap that we put here. So so we set our height to 2500. So once it hits 2500, it starts to flatten the top. You're not going to be able to make it higher than that. But sometimes some people make their projects exactly like that to make actually surfaces flat, and looks pretty cool. So I'm gonna bring it very down to like something like 15. This looks actually pretty good. And don't worry that it looks currently very, very flat. In just a second, we're gonna bring it more detail. This is kind of a base. I like it because this is a shore part, and we're gonna have here like a grass, and this is like a more mountainy part. I think it looks pretty cool. And now, just to add layer to our island, because currently like it's very smooth and all that, just to kind of layer it a bit, I'm gonna add fractal terrace. And now we can see there's more like levels, like where from the water eroded and all that. And again, you can play down with the seed, so you can get different kind of results. So I think this looks pretty cool. And now last node, another node we can add is erosion 2. And now we can start to like with erosion blend these layers together that we just created with a fractal terrace. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring the duration a bit up. And again, you can play down with the scale. And then I'm going to change these two. I'm going to change the shape of erosion. And really most of these things are just eyeballing. So now we can have that cool thing where, so we have this shore part, then this is going to be where the grass and all that. And then we have the mountain part, which is again, which is like getting that purling noise to really differentiate it, so we can have these multiple layers for our island. And it looks kind of realistic. So the last node we're going to add is C. And the question is going to be like, okay, why are we adding C? Because we don't want to use Gaia's water, right? Because it's flat. We want to utilize, since this is like meant for Unreal Engine, we're going to use, so you can use default water in Unreal Engine, or you can use one of the plugins. So reason is, I can quickly show. So let's bring the level down, because it's very, very high. So I'm going to put something like this. I think this is pretty good. And I'm going to bring down the shore size, because I think the shore is way too big. Something like this, and I'm gonna bring even shore height down, so you can kind of like get a bit higher differentiation from what we are getting here and there. And then you can really like again play. You can even bring down the level more if you want, or you can bring it up, maybe even 0.2. Yeah, 0.2 even works better. So this island I kind of like. And so beautiful thing now with the C node is, if we can disable these two, if we disable this, we still get how the sea would impact our island. So we have a shore and all that, but it's not rendering the surface. So now when we're going to put the water, we can level it where the shore starts. And it's going to make very interesting that bottom thing. And from the top view, you can really see that it's not just like, you know, there's island and there's absolutely nothing underneath, you're gonna have that really nice transition and it's gonna look pretty very realistic. So I'm not gonna color my island into the Gaea, but what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna export it and we're gonna use the auto material, which is free, and it's gonna look amazing. So to export, we just all you need is Unreal Node, open Unreal Node, set PNG, set to 1K, go to build here. That's how I usually, and just go to build. Yes, open folder, start building. For your project, now what you need to do is download MWeed Landscape Auto Material. It's free. It's very, very good because it comes with ton of customization options, including you can actually have a custom water and you can adjust, and it comes with the grass, rocks, and all the cool stuff. And it works actually really well with PCG. So we're going to look in that in a second too. So once you go into your Unreal Engine project, so I'm going to use a Gaea import plugin. If you haven't set it up, then I have a tutorial how to do it. So we're just going to click here. I'm going to click import high map, and I'm just going to import a high map. Open. And then for landscape material is, so if we go back here, we found that MW landscape auto material. We're going to go to materials, landscape. And here there's multiple presets. What the preset we're going to use is island example. But what I would suggest you to is create a new folder and just copy this and paste it. Because we can adjust the parameters, and if for each project you're making, I would suggest to create separate copy of this landscape material, because you can adjust the parameters. So one thing gonna fit for your one island, not gonna fit for other one. So just make a copy, open it up, because there's a ton of things here in parameters that we're gonna be adjusting. So if you go back to this import thing, while selecting this one, we can assign it. Gaea has done all the calculations. Now we need to do is just click create landscape. And here's our landscape right now. Currently nothing much, but now we're gonna just jump into the parameters of this material to adjust it. So I'm just gonna move it here so we can see what's happening. First thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna disable the water since we are not using, but it's actually cool thing is I'm gonna quickly show. It actually comes with its own water thing. So for some renders, other renders, you actually can use this water material. And you can see it actually comes with water. Water texture, which looks actually pretty cool. But I'm not gonna use this. So I'm gonna disable. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with we're gonna go kind of from the top to the bottom to adjusting the parameters. So let's start with the snow. Make sure the snow is enabled. You can also disable if you don't want to use the snow in your project. I'm gonna use in mine. And you want to go to the parameter called snow rolled position. And we're just going to start slowly increase it. I can increase it just so you can get to the tops. Kind of right here. So, for example, I would love snow to be here. Looks pretty cool. So the next parameter we're going to add is, I believe, the grass. And we're going to go again for roll position. We can increase the value. Bring the grass a bit more up. Something like this. Right here. So now we can start to see grass. And as I said, it actually comes with a grass. With the grass foliage, which is pretty cool. So then after the grass, we're going to bring stone is off. You can enable stone if you want. Use advanced stone. Again, this is this brownish thing. If you don't like it, you can just bring it down. I'm just gonna leave it as it is. Something like here. So and then lastly, it's dirt. And the cool thing about dirt is that's what we can use actually for our shore part, for the sand. So what I'm gonna do is I can again increase the world position and move it right here. And I think this looks really nice. One cool thing you can do is, for example, like if you don't want these grass or other things show through, you can adjust this dirt slope power and you can cut out the grass part or anything else it's covering. So it's kind of like the blending thing. So if you don't want anything, You can totally put it. I want to move a bit so we can still have these layers, but so we don't get that much of a grass. So I can adjust to something like this. And so now lastly, all we need to do is add. We're gonna go search for water, water body ocean. Again, if that's a plugin, water plugin in Unreal Engine that you would need to enable. So now everything is covered with the water, but all we need to do is, while you select this water body ocean, you can search for effect landscape, uncheck it, and bam. And now we could just, I usually like to move this one right here in the middle, and we can move this a bit up, depending again how you want your shore, and you can use your Gaea project. You can use again your Gaea project as a reference if you want to match exactly. You can look, okay, like here is barley ascend and all that, so I can like move this one a bit down so I have barley ascend there. So kind of like the kind of like the water matches exactly how it was in Gaea, and here you go. So, and the last thing I want to show you guys is in this material, there's something called debug bake. So if we click this one, it actually gives a color for grass. It's green, the sand is blue, and all the good stuff that we can actually use in PCG Biome plugin, the Unreal one, and watch that tutorial how I set it up and all that. So if you use actually that setup that I did before, then I have my own tool that I made, but I have all the steps in tutorial how to use it. If I set up this one to set map resolution, I can generate my assets, so I can go into the edit mode. I can disable so I can get that texture file. And so if I generate PCG right now I generated procedurally stuff around my island. So I have like the palms. So I have palm trees on my sand. Then I have these tropical trees on the grass area. And cool thing that I also have, I have added this. I have added these like corals under the water. And the way how I did it is, for example, because this all, if we hide this for a second, this and this is the same color, right? So if you go in edit mode, it's both blue, and the question would be, okay, so why the trees are not spamming here and why the corals are not spamming here? And the reason is because if we open up, I can open up my sand. So if you open up your BT file where you put your information about static meshes and all that, again, it's in my other tutorial how we set it up. So if you go to the filter options, we have a height min and height max. So I can set for, let's say, trees, palm trees, unlimited height, but I set height min of where exactly my shore ends. So if I get enable water body, I can grab something like actor, doesn't matter, I just drop it here. So I can drop it here, and I kind of like can tell where the shore ends and where the water starts. So it's 7510, so I put it at 7500. So that's a minimum height. So that's why the trees are not spawning into the water and just in the shore. And I did the same thing for the corals. So if you go here and you go filter options, then here I did the opposite. The minimum, there's no minimum basically where it can spawn, but the maximum is going to be that 7500. So that's why the corals are not spawning here. So this is pretty cool. That plugin, as I said, is actually, you can find a lot of uses. The one that Unreal Engine made. And this is our whole island. It's pretty cool, and we can always play it. We can have a character and we can just run it around our island and have a lot of fun and start building our game or even our cinematic project. So I hope this tutorial helped you to create some amazing islands. If you did, check my Patreon and YouTube membership to see the ways how you can support the channel on this kind of tutorials in the future. You can always like and subscribe, and see you in the next one. Bye!